crushing defeat is all it takes to stop me?
I mean, yes.
Well, think again! We're going to
Brazil.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Hello everyone, I'd like today to make one thing very clear. It was not my intention to come off as an even bigger weeb than I already am and release 9 videos, holy cow, 9 videos in a row, yes, 9 videos, of Japanese games only. Yes, I do love Japanese games, but I also really like Western games as well. So as a peace offering, today I'd like to review PlayStation Studios' newest PC port, courtesy of their top-tier port company Nixxes and developed by the truly excellent Insomniac Games. Today's review is of Ratchet Clank Rift Apart. And I love using new releases of games to tell you a bit about my history with the franchise, so you can get some context for my familiarity, and also because I just enjoy talking about video games a lot. That's just my thing. That's why I have this channel. So I am glad I have the opportunity to talk about Ratchet Clank, since me and this series go all the way back to the distant, long-forgotten year of 2021. That's when Sony was about to pull the plug on the PSN, and me, in a hurry, ended up buying all of the PS3 Ratchet Clank games for $30 total. It was like 4 games, but if I remember correctly, I spent $30 total. And see, Sony, isn't it good that you didn't close the PSN? You could have missed out on my $30. With the PS3 games secured, I went back to the PS2 and played the entire series in order, except sort of for Deadlocked. That one I played for the first time when I was a teenager, but I don't really have a lot of childhood nostalgia for the series, so let that make you understand better where I'm coming from in the next few sentences. I want to tell you about how the Ratchet Clank series never stopped amazing me with how much better the gameplay got with each sequel, while the story went in the complete opposite direction of getting blander and blander starting from the PS3 games. Tools of Destruction and A Cracking Time, 2 of the PS3 games, they have fantastic gameplay, some of the best gameplay in the franchise, they have terrible stories. They treated the punk, the sort of Cartoon Network edgy style of the PS2 plots, and they turned into a bland, Last of His Species Cosmic Destiny story. And then they did it twice, with both characters, just to really rub it in. I will admit that the drop in quality of storytelling already showed signs of appearing in the PS2 era with the 3rd game, Up Your Arsenal, and I get that a lot of you like it because Courtney Gears was your first crush. You don't have to hide that from little old me, I understand. But never forget that this game introduced one of the world's most meh villains, Dr. Nefarious. You can disagree if you want to, but to me he might be a little bit of a classic, but he is evil for the sake of evil, who even shows up in Evil magazine, because evil, good is bad, bad is good kind of villain. You know what I'm talking about, I hope. I hope I'm not coming across as a crazy person. But I don't think he had that much really going for him compared to the parodies and criticisms that the previous villains of the first games embodied. And of course, of every single enemy, they decided to pick him to become Ratchet's arch-nemesis, who also showed up in Cracking Time, of course. Though, in Insomniac's defense, he is the only villain that survives his game and has a motivation to keep being evil. So what else were they supposed to do? Also, I suppose the most meh villain is actually the guy from Tools of Destruction. I don't even remember who he was. But he rated Lombexes. That was his thing, I think. Thankfully though, the other 2 main strains of the series just kept getting better, and those are the platforming through crazy planets and the absurd guns that are absurdly fun to use. And in that way, Rift Apart continues the trends established during the PS3 era, for better or for worse. While this is a contender for being one of the most fun, crazy third-person shooters around, the story is blander than a piece of stale bread. I usually talk about the good things first, but there isn't much bad here, so let's switch things around and talk about the bad stuff first. Number 1 is of course the plot that I just mentioned. The plot of this game made me wish I was playing Forspoken instead. But then I remember I actually muted Borderlands 3 and listened to podcasts instead because of just how incomprehensibly bad the dialogue of that game was. And in this way, I suppose, the story of Rift Apart is not really as bad as Forspoken or Borderlands 3, compared, which have actual bad writing. Here it's just bland writing. Though the fact that I had to reach that far into my mental cabinet to do that comparison doesn't do it any favors either. The plot here is that Ratchet is a big hero, the kind that saved the galaxy like 10 times, and he is getting a parade in his honor back in his usual normal dimension when Clank, his robot partner, reveals a surprise gift for him. The Dimensionator, a tool capable of crossing 2 dimensions, so Ratchet can find his lost Lombax clan since he is the last Lombax in his dimension after all other Lombaxes fled to another dimension. Unfortunately, the party is crashed by Dr. Nefarious, who plans to use the gadget to transport himself to a dimension where he always wins. Only he screws up and ends up not only getting himself there, but also Ratchet and Clank. But also accidentally causing a million billion cracks in space-time that threaten to destroy all of existence. Luckily for Ratchet and Clank, they both got female counterparts in the other dimension in the form of Rivet and Kit. And together, the 4 of them will have to work together to stop Nefarious before existence goes kaboom. The plot has the characters jumping from planet to planet because of reasons that I already forgot mere hours after finishing the game, but trust me, it's important. And it's mostly about fixing the Dimensionator to stop the dimensions from exploding. I can remember at least that. However, nothing else in the plot is remarkable. At one point, Rivet acted weird towards a character, and I kept wondering why that was the case, because it was kind of a little weird, but barely weird, and was like, what is going on here? But then hours later, after I was already done with the planet, a coin finally dropped in my head, and it made me remember that Rivet is racist towards robots, and that's why she was a bit weird. But also, is she really? That's a trait that is barely explored, and honestly, that sums up Rift Apart very well. Even with a playtime of about 15 hours, I feel like we barely explore the characters that show up. And the less I talk about the extended cast, the better. The counterparts from Ratchet's universe in Rivet's universe sometimes show up for a grand total of 5 minutes, do nothing of any importance, and then show up in the finale pretending anyone actually remembered they were even in the game. It's just disappointing. Credit where credit is due, there is one very awkward cut during a character's backstory that actually serves a purpose when you find out what it was actually about. And Ratchet and Rivet do have some cute moments together, but that's about all I can honestly say that I liked about the story. We don't have all day though, so let's focus now on the second bad point that I don't want to give too much attention to because I'm dumb about it. I don't know much about it, so I could be completely wrong, but that's performance. The game runs fine, but it's basically impossible to use ray tracing and get even stable 30 FPS, so I just gave up on it. I just gave up on the ray tracing. An RTX 3070 is apparently just not enough for actual RTX, even though I play in 1080p. Or maybe something else is bottlenecking the game. Maybe my CPU, I don't know. The game still looks very impressive, even at low settings. Even at the lowest settings, the game looks super impressive. But I settled for very high settings with no RTX, which is nice. But even then, it hovered around 45 FPS. I could never get a stable 60, no matter what I did. But since, like I said, I am dumb, I'll just play it safe and blame it on my rig. Sorry I couldn't get stable 60 FPS performance for this capture, guys. What I do think is not my fault though are the crashes. Even running at 60 FPS on low, when I tested, the game still crashed a lot during the final hours, making me repeat some of the same final battles over and over again, which does a lot to kill a guy's enthusiasm for a game, but I try to keep my head up. And this happened no matter the setting, and I've seen reports of this happening even with beefier rigs than mine, so I hope Nixes take a look at this because damn it is bad. And those are the bad parts of the game. Now that we are done with those, we can talk about the good parts, aka literally everything else. First of all, let's talk about the graphics and the art design. People keep saying generation after generation that games look more and more like movies, and that more cartoony games basically look like Pixar movies these days. And yeah, Rift Apart continues the tradition of showing games to your family to impress them with how many gigapixels they have, because this baby is 100% next gen. Or current gen. Like, are we just gonna call it next gen until it ends? I'm not sure, it's more current gen, right? Anyway, This game looks great, and like I said, it looks great even at low graphical settings because of just the excellent art design that gives every single location their own little mark and personality. You go to a lot of different places, from a dark imperial metropolis to a desert junk world. It's nothing new in the world of sci-fi storytelling, but it really feels very vibrant and nice. It's a very nice mix of these realistic texture and modeling combined with the exaggerated art designs that are done to fit more with the cartoony characters, and they just really allow the thing to just go nuts. Though, honestly, considering how close some of these designs are to normal soft sci-fi designs enjoyed by adults, I think it's about time we all just admit we just love silly sci-fi. Silly sci-fi is the best. Shout out to my favorite world aesthetic. The exploded, yes, exploded planet that you arrive too late at and you have to switch between dimensions/timelines in order to progress through. I simply love the concept of road switching in the middle of a dungeon. I think Skyward Sword pretty much justified its own existence with the minecart time travel sequences. I just love things like that. Time traveling, time sharing, space sharing, time, space, something. Someone smarter than me can come up with a term for that. If you are into virtual photography as much as me, then you might also enjoy this game a fair bit as it comes with a very comprehensive photo mode, the kind of which we've come to expect from PlayStation games. And this PC release even comes with a cool feature I never saw before. The in-game take picture button is actually directly linked to your Steam account, so when you take a screenshot, it automatically goes to your Steam screenshots folder, which I think is pretty cool. Let me know if any other games do this. I love these little quality of life features. My love for the set design extends to the character design as well. Ratchet and Clank are both classics at this point, they're timeless, but Rivet and Kit are both good remixes on them as well. They're not just straight up a clone of them. Kit has a bit more of a round look, and Rivet doesn't have one of her arms. She has a robot arm instead. They're not just Ratchet and Clank, but female, is the point that I'm trying to make here. But I really like the enemies that are very funny looking, but I want to give a special shout out to the Nefarious Troopers, who all have multiple eyes inside of this goldfish bowl looking, weird oval goldfish bowl looking helmets. And they not only look really goofy, but they also make for excellent target practice for the sniper rifle when you finally unlock it. Great way to train your kid on the importance of marksmanship without too much frustration. Training wheels for future snipers basically. I love how their design factors into gameplay. And speaking of snipers, we should talk about guns. Rift Apart is mostly about two things, jumping and guns. The jumping is great. There are no big platforming challenges around here, though there are some very impressive rail set pieces, and okay, they are very impressive, and there are extra hardcore hidden areas that push the platforming to its limits, but the rest of the game doesn't even come close to that kind of difficulty. Jumping and running around here is mostly to serve as a way to dodge bullets and make your way through arenas, with the addition for the ability to literally grapple yourself into a dimensional rift to another position. I'm gonna show you on the screen. It's really hard to describe what exactly that does, but it looks really cool and allows for some decently fun dodging. The star of the show, and the thing you all been waiting to hear about though, is the second element that I mentioned, the guns. Sorry it took so long, people, but oh boy, are they fun. The game starts you off with a pistol that runs closer to a machine gun, but it doesn't take long before you get the option to buy new guns. Though I also started with a gun called the Pixelizer, because I bought the game on pre-order, which is something you should never do if you're an average customer, but I'm an idiot with a YouTube channel, so it's okay if I do it. The Pixelizer is basically a shotgun that turns enemies into pixels, including turning their voices into highly crunched versions, which is hilariously detailed. It doesn't take long before you unlock the ability to buy an actual shotgun, but the thing is, while most games would be happy with just giving you a shotgun, Rift Apart actually lets you upgrade it to cause damage over time to enemies and to throw them back so far you can actually throw them off the platforms. A cool thing you can also do with the grenade is to have it explode into spikes that can be upgraded to explode one more time after they dig themselves into your enemy's flesh, which I'm pretty sure is a war crime. But don't let that distract you from the fact that even the simplest gun in this game has some very cool upgrades. You don't have to rely only on upgrades for the real fun bits though. Some weapons just come with real fun unlocked, like the lightning gun that stuns enemies and others around them in shock if you fire enough shots at them, or the top carrying sprinkler which freezes enemies by essentially growing plants all over their body. The creativity is unlimited and showing full display, but I want to give a special shout out, once again, another special shout out, but this one is a real one that goes to the most satisfying gun to use in the game for me, the Ricochet. The Ricochet works in the following way. You shoot it at an enemy and it will bounce on them, and then when you hear a little ping, you can immediately press the trigger to get it to bounce on them once again, and again, and again, for a certain number of times that you can upgrade. It allows you to keep doing damage to the same enemy, and if the enemy kills, it will actually go to other enemies, so you can just keep damaging them even as you move around. But the most important thing, nailing the timing down just feels absolutely divine. It's just a joy to use this gun. It's amazing. It is the stuff video games were made to do. It says a lot about your arsenal that a late game rocket launcher that shoots multiple missiles at once that you can upgrade to beat heat seekers is actually one of the most boring weapons of the game, even if it does essentially delete entire boss battles from existence. I played around with a ton of weapons, even if they weren't the most optimized way to play, and I just love how the game doesn't restrain you with too little ammo. It doesn't give you too much, but it doesn't give you so little that you just save your most powerful weapons for the boss battles. Or I like that they didn't make enemies so specialized that they can only be defeated with specific weapons. You can just do whatever you feel like at a specific time. Here explosives can be used both as boss killers as well as crowd control, and weapons like the lightning gun can also be used for both crowd control and bosses, so you can shock them and get some breathing room, but you can also use them to stop agile enemies so you can hit them, or to hit shield enemies by hitting enemies next to them with the lightning bolt that will also shock them because there are shield enemies that can block your shots. My point is, this game gives you a giant toolbox and complete combat freedom to deal with your situations, which is just how I like my games. And trust me, you need all of that, because the amount of enemies in this game is insane. It reaches basically Muso status at some point, with how many enemies are flying across the screen. Characters even make quips at specific points about how it feels like they just killed every single enemy in the entire galaxy, only for even more to spawn in the next room. Good thing this game has some very heavy inter-enemy interactions with different factions fighting each other all the time, which is something I always love to see in video games. And you also have a weapon that shoots helping robots, and certain guns like the Splinker work automatically. You really have to use as many tools as possible, especially as your ammo reserves get depleted, which lead me to want to give a giant big hug to whoever in the dev team made the decision to place a bar right below your crosshairs that show how much ammo you got left for your current gun. That is a fantastic decision that really helps you understand your current situation in the middle of some of the more chaotic fights. Another great point in the game's favor is that, unlike certain other JRPG series, not saying this is a JRPG, but there are some JRPGs that do some very annoying stuff, like being unable to put status effects on the bosses. Like, why do you even give me poison? I'm not gonna poison a random guy. Anyway, you can put status effects on the bosses here, meaning that yes, you can pixelize a boss for some extra fun, or you can stop them in their tracks with a well-placed sprinkler, and hopefully I don't need to tell you why that is good. When this level of gameplay experimentation is possible, not only on every single normal enemy, but also every single boss, that's some GOAT combat right there. We kind of have to stop now though, or else we would spend here all day as I went through every single weapon in the game and all of their possible uses, and we would just have to sit down and discuss making a tier list, and that's just not the time or the video for this. Maybe later, but it's just impossible for me to do every single gun in this game justice in a short amount of time. So let's stop talking about individual guns and their effects and talk more about upgrading your guns. Upgrading your guns is simple. There is a rare material out there called, you guessed it, Raritanium, that you can find hidden in all sorts of nooks and crannies, and every Raritanium you get allows you to unlock one new slot in a grid that gets you a passive upgrade to your weapon. Simple small buffs like higher ammo capacity or longer stun time, stuff like that. But in the middle of these grids, there are golden slots that cannot be purchased, and instead, they only activate after you buy every single slot around them. These buffs are the strongest ones and can sometimes completely overhaul the use cases of a weapon. But I love them not just because of that, but because they guide me into purchasing certain upgrades without thinking too much about it. Guidance is important here because every weapon has dozens of slots, so individually making your way through them, thinking about the path that you want to follow through, could take a while. And this multiplies by the sheer number of guns in this game, and you don't want to be on the upgrade green the entire time, because, you know, sometimes there are games that do that and it's good, but this is not trying to be the Path of Exile skill tree. So the golden slots are a great way of easing the management of these skill trees by allowing you to just go straight to the strongest buffs, see if you want them, and then buying everything around them on the weapons that you like the most. It also solves the eternal question of what should we hide around this corner for the player to find with Raritanian, by giving the developers a simple solution that is always pleasant to find, and you don't have to tax developer teams by having them make a brand new collectible every time. Not that it stopped them from hiding info bots and gold boats around some of the darkest corners of the game world though. The bots hold audio logs, which, unfortunately, you can't listen during gameplay, only in the pause menu, which sucks. Come on developers, you already know, just let us listen to the audio logs while we play the game. But the gold boats unlock a variety of cosmetics and lead little side options of all kinds. Also, you can collect armor sets, which when complete, give a passive bonus even if you don't equip them. So you know you can look as stylish or however you want while still getting the bonus. Overall, this game is definitely not lacking collectible items that you actually want to collect. If all of the shooting and the madness gets a bit tiring though, which let's admit it will with how frequent and bombastic it is, the game also offers two little side diversions that you will occasionally find during both the main story and side content, and those are the glitch missions and the Clank puzzles. The glitch missions put you in control of Glitch, an AI companion Ratchet gets at the beginning of the game. Glitch plays like a spider tank that can't jump but can attach herself to any reachable surface, which gives her levels a bit of a disorienting feel as you have to walk backwards to avoid a shower of enemies while climbing and essentially changing your entire notion of gravity as you dodge them. Her arsenal consists of double machine guns, guided missiles, and a charge that wipes everything around her. The goal of every glitch level is that essentially she gets inside of an infected machine that has viruses, and then she must clear the virus hives that will constantly spawn new enemies until destroyed and can only be destroyed by the missile attack. So you often have to dodge and weave your way around enemies to reach your objective instead of killing them all, because otherwise they simply won't stop spawning. It can be as hectic as the main game sometimes, but Glitch's slower movement and lack of jumping means that you have to be a lot more deliberate on your movements on her levels compared to the rest of the game, which is a difference that I really dig. I could honestly play an entire game in this style if they added a bit more depth to it. The second minigame is a series of puzzles where you play as Clank, which use the exact same control scheme as the main game, but are considerably more cerebral. In this mode, you have to solve what works as a sort of unlimited lemmings puzzle, I guess, where a queue of running Clanks try to make their way towards an exit. However, there are lots of obstacles on the way, so Clank Prime has to gather some orbs and use them to modify specific spots on the level in order for the Clanks to reach the exit. The orbs alter the properties of the Clanks, as well as certain other objects, so you can get heavy orbs to turn them heavy so a fan can't blow them away, or flight orbs to make them fly and jump over a gap. These orbs also alter the properties of Clank Prime, so as you can imagine, you can get into all sorts of wacky situations where you must alter the property of Clank to reach a specific place, then remove that so the flow can continue properly. Or times where a Clank crew specifically serves as an obstacle as they hinder your progress by activating a pressure switch that you really wish was not activated. It all can get incredibly clever, but never so clever you're stumped for too long, especially since you have a limited number of places that you can place the orbs on, so there's only so many combinations to try before you figure things out. So it hits the very sweet spot where it gives you a break from the main game, just long enough for you to rest your twitch reflexes, but never so hard that it actually halts your progress for hours, which is exactly what I expect from a little diversion like this. Overall, this Glitch and Clank intermissions are great, and I wouldn't mind if they spun off into their own full games. Well, Clank actually already kind of got a full game that plays like his, that just released recently. It was called Humanity, I think, which, thanks to the wonders of port delay, came out just recently, 2 years after Rift Apart on the PS5, but just a few months before Rift Apart on PC. Game releases can be funny like that. And so, we talked about the story, the gameplay, the guns, the intermissions, the photo mode. We didn't talk about the music. I don't remember a single piece of music from this game. I think we covered everything. I'm not good at concluding videos, so let's just do this in as straightforward a way as possible. The story sucks, and there are some possible performance issues, but otherwise Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart looks great, sounds great, and plays great. So if you're in the mood for some crazy, chaotic, 3D, stay moving or die, platforming run and gun, then yeah, get Ultra Kill. Also Rift Apart, do get Rift Apart. I generally recommend this game. If it seems like it would be your thing, it probably is your thing. Once again, thanks for listening to my cold takes all the way to the very end. Normally this is where I would recommend another one of my videos in the screen, but as I was making this video, I found one of another YouTuber who played this game better than I ever could, and they just really showcase its full potential, so do give it a watch. It should be on the screen right now. Go ahead and click on it. Don't be shy, just click on the link. Just watch the video. Seriously, go watch the video. It's great. Trust me, bro.